Hello, welcome to the Lunch and Chat with Leslie broadcast. I'm your host, Leslie Parker. Thank you for tuning in to tonight's live, informative, educational, and entertaining podcast that airs every Tuesday at 7 p.m. or 7:30. But this innovative talk show was put together for you, the community, and anyone that wants to connect. I have not gone live in a month because I have been working on several projects. But tonight I decided that I need to talk about something very important. And that was to bring awareness that we need to bring unity to our community because of the amount of crime that we're facing every day. And it's not just a local crime, but it's all over the nation. That I wanted to discuss this with you. I watch the news just like you do, and I hear about the various crimes that go on, all types of crimes. But what really compelled me to speak about this tonight is the overwhelming dysfunction we are facing as a nation. And if we don't do anything about it, it's just going to get worse. So we can look towards the officials to, do something about the crime. But really, it's time for ordinary citizens like yourself and like for me to help reduce the amount of crime in our communities. Can I do it alone? No. Do I have all the answers? No, I do not. However, I do believe that collectively and collaboratively, we can take a stand and make a difference. I would love to hear suggestions later on during the podcast and also get your opinions about the ongoing problem that we're facing. And it's not getting better. I mean, if you think about it, as this generation goes forward, the younger generation, they're faced with a lot of crime right now. What is it going to look like 20 years from now, 30 years from now, if we don't make a difference? So what I've done tonight is I put some statistical data that I'd like to share with you about crime, and also want to share a video that I thought was very interesting. This gentleman is going to explain to you the reason for crime and what should be done about it. But before I go into all that information, I put it in the beginning of my podcast that in an average year, and this information does come from the everytown.org press information about Maryland. But in an average year, over 724 people die by guns in the state of Maryland, and 1,747 are wounded. Gun violence have cost Maryland about $5.7 billion each year, of which $375.8 million is paid by taxpayers. So if that doesn't give you any incentive to do something about crime, it definitely gives me incentive to do something about it. It's not just about the money, but it's also about looking out for our family, looking out for your family, looking out for the future. So Maryland Statistical Analysis Center has put out that, well, it's actually from the National Library of Medicine, I do apologize, that crime generates substantial cost to society at an individual, at a community, and a national level. In the United States, more than 23 million criminal offenses were committed. Now, this was back in 2007. So can you imagine what it looks like now? This is resulting in approximately $15 billion in economic loss to the victims, $179 billion in government expenditures on police protection, and substance abuse have been known for example, to at least contribute to some of the crime that we're having. But according to the National Library of Medicine, when there's intervention with substance abuse, they noticed that the crime rate did go down. So between the two, there's been conclusively established that the U.S. statistics show that more than 50% of the state and the federal inmates that used drugs in the month prior to committing their crimes for which they were incarcerated, and that more than a quarter of all offenders were using drugs at the time of their offense. So obviously there's an opioid problem, there's a problem with drugs, but it even gets deeper than that. There are also 4 factors that I'm going to talk to you about. There's victims' costs. And, I didn't really think about this at first. What is this costing the victims after they've been impacted by a crime? Direct economic losses suffered by crime victims include their medical care, Now, what if they don't have health insurance? Someone, whether they shoot them or stab them or whatever it is, or hit them with a blunt object, they are still faced with medical care costs that are extremely high. Loss of earnings. They won't be able to work. So you see the cycle. Are you beginning to see the cycle of crime, how it is just exploding right now? So we have to do something about it. And property loss and damage. Then there's the criminal justice system costs, local, state, and federal government funds spent on police protection, crime career costs, opportunity costs associated with the criminal's choice to engage in illegal rather than legal productive activities, intangible costs, indirect losses suffered by crime victims, including their pain and suffering. They have a decreased quality of life, and then they wind up having psychological distress. Here we go again with that cycle again. So it's just, it's like being a hamster in the wheel. They're constantly going through this. These victims are of experiencing not just the fact that someone tried to rob them or hurt them, but now they're suffering with PTSD, all of these things. So these measures across the four components provide an estimate of economic loss cost of individual crimes. Well, I don't know if you knew this or not, but there are 10 dangerous towns in Maryland to live in. And when I heard this, I said, what? No, not. I know we have some crime in Maryland, but dangerous? Well, again, according to the Maryland.gov crime statistics, Baltimore, Maryland is on the list. Ocean City, Elton, Pocomoke City, Salisbury, Bladensburg, Suitland, Cambridge, and many other cities. The Maryland Statistical Analysis Center resides within the Governor's Office of Crime. So if you ever want to look up this information, please, you can go online and get this information for yourself. But I want to go a little bit deeper now. I want to show you a video that I felt was really impactful. You're going to really like this video. And then at the end, I'm going to, open up for questions. All right, give me a second. I'm going to share this video with you. All right.
Human behavior. Location matters. Let's imagine a place where children repeatedly play. If we step back from our focus on the cluster of kids, we might realize that located where they play exist swings, slides, and open fields. That is, features of a place, here suggestive of a playground, that attract children to this location instead of other locations that are absent such entertaining qualities. Features of the landscape are
and this guy, his name is Joe Kaplan.
Playful behavior. Crimes also cluster at particular places. I'm not suggesting in any way that these kids are criminals. The analogy is intended to be benign in that respect. But environmental factors can and do influence the seriousness and longevity of crime problems. To study these spatial dynamics of crime, my colleague Les Kennedy and I developed risk terrain modeling in 2009. Risk terrain modeling, or RTM, identifies features of the landscape and identifies how they interact and overlap to create unique behavior settings for crime. RTM is free for anyone to use, with tutorials and many other resources posted online. To make it even more accessible, we developed a free software application that automates the technical process. This process of RTM begins by testing a variety of factors that are thought to be geographically related to crime incidents. Valid factors are selected and then weighted when combined to produce a final model that basically paints a picture of places where criminal behavior is statistically most likely to occur. These steps of RTM are applied consistently from one jurisdiction to another. But what's not routine are the way in which these factors come together in different settings or for different types of crime. Let's think about this through the analogy of a kaleidoscope. The cylinder of the kaleidoscope represents the jurisdiction, or the study setting that we're interested in examining. The shards of glass within the cylinder represent crime attractors, or features of the landscape, such as bars, fast food restaurants, parks, or grocery stores. As we move from environment to environment, It represents a turn of this kaleidoscope so that the pieces come together in different configurations, each representing unique spatial and situational contexts that have implications for behavior at those places. We know that crimes cluster, but there's no standard explanations for these patterns. So it's not safe to assume that a standard response to crime problems will yield similar returns across all environments. Behavior settings differ, so interventions need to be tailored accordingly. Police use RTM to problem solve in this fashion, to develop risk reduction strategies that are tailored to their unique jurisdictions. As an example, at a task force meeting in Jersey City, a conversation quickly centered around gas stations, which was identified as one of the highest risk factors for violent crime, according to the risk train model. Police officers in the room quickly explained how this made sense to them and explained how they had believed gas stations to be problematic for quite some time. RTM validated and confirmed their experienced gut feelings. But then a community stakeholder added to the conversation. She explained how youth tend to hang out after school around corner grocery stores or bodegas because they have food and drinks and rolling paper that they could use to smoke occasionally at nearby vacant buildings. But these bodegas are required to close at 10 p.m. according to city ordinance. Gas stations with food marts, though, are exempt from this requirement. These 24/7 facilities create unique contexts for youth to congregate, and they provide supplies that they're looking for, which can create unique contexts for turf conflict, offending, and even victimization. Now, the vacant buildings and the grocery store bodegas were also identified as top risk factors. So the Department of Public Works added to the conversation. They proposed prioritizing their existing efforts to board up vacant buildings and to clear vacant lots, but to do so near the corner bodegas and near the gas stations with food marts. Representatives from the Department of Public Work, from the Department of Parks and Recreation, as well as from the mayor's office, proposed enhancing their advertising and recruitment campaigns for summer recreation activities and job training programs. They proposed going to the corner store bodegas and the gas stations and other places nearby to engage with youth whom they wanted to recruit into the programs, but do this at places where they spend most of their time. The police department then agreed to deploy directed patrols and meet and greets with managers of risky facilities, and to do so at peak time periods. The police officers promised to make referrals to partnering community agencies and social workers when they came across people who might be in need of support services or outreach. The police department even implemented new protocol for crime report writing, which was intended to allow for continued and ongoing risk assessments. As you can see from all of this, RTM allows stakeholders at all levels of the community to prioritize their efforts and to engage in coordinated responses. People like to problem solve, but they need the right information. RTM identifies risky places and empowers police to think outside the box of traditional responses to crime, which are often very person-oriented, such as stops, arrests, or citations. Legal scholars have even endorsed RTM as one of the few, if only, methods of crime analysis that preserves the constitutional protections of the Fourth Amendment and increases objectivity and transparency in policing practices. By now, you're probably wondering if focusing on risky places and not people can really reduce crime. And I'm pleased to say that the answer is absolutely yes, it can. With funding that we received from the Department of Justice, we conducted experiments in multiple cities across the United States. Policing activities that are focused on high-risk places yielded many benefits, including 35% fewer gun crimes in Newark, 33% fewer motor vehicle thefts in Colorado Springs, and 42% fewer robberies in Glendale, among many other positive outcomes in all the jurisdictions that we studied. Our newest partnership in Atlantic City builds on everything we've learned through rigorous research over the years and puts it into practice with the goal of long-term sustainability. In Atlantic City, we know because of risk terrain modeling why the risky places shown here on the map in red and yellow cover just 2% of the land area, but account for 30% of the crime. Police commanders can explain where to go because crime is likely to happen there, but also what to do when they get there and why they attract criminal behavior.
Just another minute or two.
Police officers know what places to focus on, but also what to do when they get there. This is risk-based policing at its finest, and it's needed for public safety in the 21st century. RTM takes the focus off of people and puts it on places that persistently enable illegal behavior. Mm-hmm. It emphasizes evidence-based decision-making, problem-solving, better utilization of resources, transparency, and sustainability. I know of RTM being used in dozens of cities across the United States and in more than 30 countries across 6 continents because it's pragmatic. We all live our lives somewhere on the Earth's surface. So policing place-based risks just makes sense, and evidence shows that it works. It's also more than just a crime fighter. As a spatial diagnostic method, RTM is used in a variety of other disciplines across many fields, including urban planning, transportation, public health, medicine, environmental science, business, biology, national security, even maritime shipping. This is the impact of being evidence-based, free, effective, accessible, and actionable. And it's what I find so truly fascinating and exciting to be a part of. Thank you for letting me share it with you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. I thought it was really good, very interesting. I came across it a couple of days ago. I was like, wow, this is some really good information to tie in to what I want to talk to you about. So what do you think about that video? I want to hear your opinion. What do you think? Do you think that the speaker spoke correctly about what we should do instead of focusing on the people, but focus on the places where the crime is occurring? I'm kind of half and half on what he's saying. I do believe that we do need to focus on those particular group of people that are causing the crime, but the places definitely. If you were to do things like, for me, I work in data analysis, and I know it's important to understand the data, because if you understand the data, you know where to look or what you're looking for. So in terms of this crime-based stuff, I'm not a police officer or, criminal justice professional, but I'm an ordinary citizen trying to just get the word out that we need to do better. If we don't do anything, like I said, the worst thing that you can do is do nothing at all. Right now, you may live in a community that's really nice, and you got your big house and your beautiful your landscape and all that, beautiful neighborhood. But there are other people out there that are not fortunate enough to live in those types of communities. But what happens, we think that the crime is just going to stay put in that particular area, which we know that's not true, because crime will travel just like anything else. Time travels. Any time you want to, if someone wants to get from one place to another, transportation is not an issue. We did witness this in the past with, unfortunately, when we had unrest situations, when we had, just things that were just, that we were angry about because of the injustice things that were done. But now we're getting to the point where you have mass shootings. It's been happening for a while, but it's happening all over the world. And I tell you, when I saw that video of, I think it was, I can't think of the actor's name. Oh my God, I can't think of his name right now. But he did come on, he did go to the White House, and he did speak about how every one of those kids that were killed suffered, not just the kids, but it's the families that's left behind. So crime is not just based on guns, but it's also rape. There's also carjackings. There's also burglary, theft. So it all exists. And will we get rid of crime? No, I don't think we'll ever get rid of crime. But I tell you what we can do. We can make a difference. And I just, I was just really bothered behind the amount of crime that I hear every day on the news. If it's not on the news, then it's on Facebook. And I wanted to really just talk to you and see if you have any suggestions. I was listening to the guy, Joe Chaplin. I was listening to him talk about, oh my God, his name correctly, about needing to engage more. Unfortunately, policing has changed. A long time ago, the police department used to engage more with the public. Hopefully, that would help. But again, what they said, we are a product of our environment, and also certain things that we cannot control is how other people raise their kids. You can't control. You don't know how Janet is raising little Charlie, or how Kevin is raising his daughter Samantha. We don't know that. But all I know, when we start seeing, if you're living in a community where someone is raising their child to a point where they're being disrespectful, and not really, they're just causing more harm to the community. To me, it's going to cause, it's going to be like an infestation. Just like people have an infestation of a pest, of animals, it's going to be an infestation of crime. If you're living in your neighborhood and someone is doing some things that they shouldn't do, and you don't say anything about it, you're going to hurt yourself, and you're going to hurt the future of your children, of your children's children. I know people say, well, you know what, I'm getting ready to move out of that community. Well, guess what? Crime is going to still follow you. So I really I really think that it would be a great idea if we all come together like we did back in the day. I remember we used to have cleanup block, where it was this one lady in my community when I used to live near Park Heights Avenue. She would come together and say, hey, we're going to have a block party. Because I know these kids right now, they're just got their minds focused on this media. I mean, it's great that we have the ability to look at media and be entertained by it. But at the same time, it is really hurting us. It is hurting us real bad, because too much of it is accessible. And now the younger kids, they're getting to see some of this stuff, this mess that's being posted on Facebook. And they just think that, hey, it's fun until it hits home. So I know some people, I don't know about you, but I know some people personally that have been victims of crime. And it was a while ago, I'll never forget, when I was living on Powhatan in this in Baltimore City, and this lady and her daughter lived on the first floor. They live in a basement apartment, but we were on the first floor. And she was just walking from the bus stop, she and her daughter, and she was only a couple minutes away from her house. And this guy snatched them both. Fortunately, she was able to get away. But again, sometimes we have that mentality, well, it didn't affect me. I'm good. I've never been a victim of crime. But when it hits close to home, this is where it has hit close to home for me. I don't know about for you, but right now we are in it. And if we don't do anything about it, it's going to get worse and worse. So let's see. I have a comment from someone. Julie. Okay. Hi, Julie. Oh, wow. Great. Yes. I try to make it as informative as possible. Thank you. And does give a different perspective on the root issue. I mean, when I watched that video by a gentleman, I was really impressed. And I think that you're welcome. I thank you for being, interested in the subject. It is extremely important that we, pay attention to the crime factors that's affecting us, whether we live, like I said, in the city, in the county. So Julie, I know, that, I think you're from Maryland, but I know that probably sometime growing up, you can probably see the difference of how crime has affected, you, your family, your grandkids. It's so important that we address this issue. Maybe form a community group, for each community. Like I live in Owings Mills. So Owings Mills, I'm sure they probably have leaders there. But, I just feel like it's just not enough. People are not doing enough about stopping this crime issue. If it's getting worse, that we haven't really gotten a hold of it. So we really need to do a little bit better. And I wanted to not keep you long, but I wanted to leave you with a video that, I can say he is a community person. He's a community activist. He did a video, and I was in a video myself as Sergeant Pushup. He did a unity dance, and I thought it was really good. So I'm going to share this video with you, and I hope you enjoy it. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm going to share it with you now.
You know what time it is. Drop that beat.
Stop, you can't stop. I can't stop. We can. Oh yes, we do. Stop, you can't stop. I can't stop. We can. Oh yes, we do. Stop, you can't stop. I can't stop. We can. Oh yes, we do. You count and I count and we count. Oh yes, we do.
Need more unity.
In our communities.
We need more unity.
In our communities.
Sergeant Push-Up is my name. Stomping hatred is my game. Bringing unity is what I do. I'm coming to the community right near you. It's your boy from Alabama. Bringing love, yes I am. We can do this thing together. Loving you any kind of weather. Unite!
1, 2, 5, 2, 3, 5, 3.
We're gonna bring some unity.
1, 5.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, that was the unity dance, and I was a part of it. Unity, well, not the singing, of course. That's not my gift, but I did help choreograph it. And both my daughters, they were in it, and it was really good. So I'm thinking that, just thinking of some ideas that I can help and really be a part of making a change. And that's just really get involved with our youth a little bit more, because they are the future. So they learn from the adults, but also they learn from other young people. They're not doing what they. So we can just bring more positive activities in their lives that would make a difference. Unfortunately, in Baltimore City, a lot of the recreational activities are gone. They starting to try to bring it back by doing, festivals in Baltimore City. I believe that Baltimore City just opened up in Druid Hill a new swimming pool, which is great. But we really need people, leaders like yourself, to come forward and, maybe just have kind of like a little town meeting just to talk to them. Young people they're scared, just like we are. But I believe that we really can make a difference if we would just implement change. And change comes from within. It comes from your household. It comes from not being standoffish, even though, sometimes I see young people doing some crazy things, and I just wish I could just tell them that, hey, why don't you try this or try that? I also have like a dream I have so many things on my plate, but this is how God made me. I'm just so excited to at least help young people as much as possible. Before I even thought about doing some other things I was doing, I wanted to do like a little learning center so I can train the youth on how to be able to get some skills and talents together so that when they're ready to get out here and get a job, they don't have to worry about being persuaded to want to commit a crime or anything like that. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that if we would just get involved a little bit more, be more engaging, talk to these officials. I know the mayor is doing the best that he can. I'm not going to talk bad about him, Baltimore City, but even, the governor, they need to address this issue a little bit more, I think. Instead of reporting about the crime, because I'm really getting sick and tired of hearing about this crime happening, that crime happening. Let's see what we can do about the crime. Let's hold a meeting. That's my idea, or my ideal thinking. Anyway, I thank you for staying this long with me with the Lunch and Chat with Leslie podcast, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Hopefully, I will have my next guest will be on. We'll talk about some financial issues. So I'm going to be talking about all the financial stuff out there, including wills and estates, estate planning, insurance, you name it, the good stuff that you need to hear about. So you have a great evening, and I will talk with you next Tuesday, same time. Take care.